Good evening, everybody. Christie from Happy and Healthy TV with you guys tonight, coming live from my bed for day 2 of 100 Days of a Girl with Lyme documentary. So I haven't posted anything in a while. I'm so sorry, guys. Been really busy with a lot of things. One, helping other Lyme patients, which is awesome. And been a pleasure and a joy to go ahead and do that. So I've been up to that lately. Obviously, getting Lyme treatment for myself has been a full-time job, as you guys full well know. And I've been sick for a little while, honestly, but also at the same time, was practicing like hardcore for the past few months with music, with trying to take care of a really great concert that I was able to participate in last night. So without getting too far into that, let's talk about the purpose of my video today. So what I'm going to be talking about are some complications with Lyme. And I think this is really important to bring up for a couple reasons. One, there are tons of Lyme complications. Let's put that out there first. And I like to say to patients or colleagues or people, other Lymies, we know that no two sets of Lyme disease are exactly the same. And when I say that, I mean you can get bit perhaps even by the same tick, and depending on the person's body, and looking at how their immune system is functioning, and excuse me, guys, I have swallowing issues. Other things like that are going to affect things. So I always say, like, co-infections are going to affect things. So, you may have somebody with Lyme disease, but then somebody else who has Lyme with 2 different co-infections, or 3, or whatever the case is. Or the species of the tick that you got bit by could cause different infections. So I think this is a real big factor in bringing up stuff in regards to treatment, because as everybody knows, there are tons of treatments out there for Lyme. Some of them work, some of them don't, some of them are bullshit. Let me just not sugarcoat it for you guys. I would say I'm a nutritionist, I don't like things sugarcoated. I've seen some ridiculous treatments. I've also seen some stuff that's really promising. But here's the deal, though. I mean, I could tell somebody to stand upside down and put peanut butter in their hair, and they're going to get rid of their Lyme disease. And my thought is, if you believe you're going to get rid of it, eventually you will. So having that positivity kind of going on, that power of positive thinking, is huge when you have Lyme disease. But then when you have things like babesia, or parasites or fungus on the brain, in addition to a Lyme infection, or mold toxicity, which you've heard a lot about today. Actually, just watched a very interesting documentary about that last night or the night before, and I was shocked at this poor young lady who had just such severe mold sensitivity, and come to find out, she went up with Lyme, and the poor young lady was living in the middle of the desert because there was just so much mold everywhere. And one of the issues that she had for being so sensitive to it, and I've actually seen this with other patients as well, people who've gotten stem cell treatment done and have this mold toxicity issue. I actually happen, unfortunately, have mold behind my tub enclosure in my bathroom. So I rent my apartment, so it is not up to me to fix that, although I have fixed my bathroom as much as I possibly can on my own. And, that's a concern. That's gross. There's like mold behind my wall. So, God knows what's coming in there from that. Me, per se, I haven't had myself tested for mold sensitivity. However, I wouldn't be surprised if that would come up. I mean, for God's sake, I've had just about every complication you could have with Lyme. So, that's one thing. Co-infections, what are they doing? Things like mold sensitivity, mold toxicity are also issues that would come up as well. You guys know I like to be very real with you when we do these Lyme documentary videos. Again, I'm coming to you live from my bed. I have no makeup on. My hair is not done. I literally just got out of the shower and threw it up in a ponytail after I had gone out running today, which I haven't been able to do in quite a while. So I'm always thankful for the days I can do that. Anyway, so other complications that you may be dealing with Lyme, like as we talked about co-infections, we talked about mold toxicity. I can give you a few more, like multiple sclerosis is something that we see frequently. And I always, anytime I see somebody with MS, I'm like, are you sure you don't have Lyme? Guillain-Barré, my father actually almost passed away from that, from Lyme. There's a lot of stuff about degenerative disc disease and Lyme disease as being a co-factor to that, or being a co-contributor to that. So I think that's something to really pay attention to. Quite frankly, if you have any chronic illness at all, chronic fatigue, geez, my brain's blanking out here because I have a little brain damage going on. Brain fog, Hormonal issues. A lot of these things could be linked back to Lyme. So that's something important to pay attention to. I actually recently was diagnosed with not only congestive heart failure, but lung failure on top of that. So, yay, cardio and pulm failure. Ridiculous. My pulse ox has been very low lately, which is why you guys haven't seen me doing videos. I'm on O2 at night to sleep, which I have to be honest, I half the time forget to put it on. And will only usually go ahead and use it when I start having issues where I just can't breathe. And that's happened a few times, a little scary, but what are you going to do about it? Um, so that's certainly something to pay attention to as well. So there's a lot of different things. So I had Lyme carditis, so that's part of the reason why my heart kind of crapped out, for lack of a better term. And for my lungs, I actually went up with something called sarcoidosis, which is an autoimmune infection that it can attack all different parts of the body, and it causes granulomas all over the body. So that's fun. In my particular case, my sarcoidosis so far has just stayed in my lungs. I say thankfully because I'm glad it just hasn't spread anywhere else. We're doing everything we can to prevent that. But yeah, that's not fun to have, especially when you're a runner and you play the flute. And I talk like 100 miles an hour, so it's like constantly trying to breathe. Um, I'm not perfect either. I tell people I've been leaking this out now. I do use medical marijuana and have been using it ever since I realized it was helpful for my Crohn's disease way back when. So that's been a part of my life for a long time. I have to use a disclaimer when I talk about that. Certainly, I would not recommend anybody use that unless obviously they are using it legally and they have obtained it correctly and they have permission from their doctor. And obviously you need to apply for a card and all the great stuff that goes with that. I won't comment too much more on that. I'm just using that as an example of something that has helped quite a lot of people, and we've seen Lyme go into remission. Anyway, kind of blowing off on a little bit of a tangent here. The reason I brought that up is, okay, yeah, I have lung issues now. Did it come from that? Did it come from the sarcoid? Obviously, my thought is it probably came from both. So obviously, had to change up the way that I use medical cannabis, which is completely fine, and use it in a more safer modality. And we'll talk about that on a whole other video because I can probably do like an entire hour show on just that one topic. I'm pretty privy to that particular plant, having studied botany in school for nutrition, and also, again, having some background with personal use. So, sarcoidosis is another complication. Borrelia, the particular bacteria, can actually go ahead, and we've seen it called sarcoidosis, which it attacks the lungs. It can be migratory and migrate throughout the body. So again, another complication that comes with that. Lupus. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but there are a number of studies out right now, not quoting specific medical journals, but I can certainly put them in the comment box below, is another big issue that is cross-contributed to Lyme. So I don't know, guys. Like, I've seen a lot of very interesting things. Rheumatoid arthritis, I mean, that's like on the top of the list. Carpal tunnel, I've seen people with. My Southpaw tattoo. Yay me. Yeah, it's something to really think about for a second. If you do have some sort of a chronic illness, particularly if you have something that's not well understood, or something that you're really just like kind of wondering, well, what the hell is the root cause of this? I would definitely go ahead and check to see if you have Lyme. I would use IGeneX testing. We've talked about this, I think, on previous videos. The current testing from the CDC, no offense, CDC, but it sucks. I'm not sugarcoating my words when I say that. 50% false negative rate on those tests, or false negative result on that particular test. So that means half the people that are walking around that get an ELISA test and then followed by a Western blot are told they do not have Lyme disease. Are you kidding me? I can just tell you, in the past, I want to say 6 weeks alone, I've been probably contacted by about 30 Lyme patients. 6 of them live on the block that I live on. I'm not naming names because of HIPAA violation, but I think it's really scary when I have my friends of friends and neighbors and people like that that are calling me, telling me their child has been bit by a tick, or, their grandmother thinks they have Lyme disease now. It is a pandemic. And I don't just say this because I have this disease. I say it because all I do is research it and talk to people all day with it. And speak to other practitioners who are more educated than myself so I can help you guys better. It's really important to me to get this message out there. So we thought that initially Lyme disease was really more or less found on the northeastern seaboard, northeastern region of the United States, and in parts of the Bay Area of California. I can tell you I've spoken to patients all across the country, in addition to places in Canada, who do have Lyme disease and late stage and are really suffering. And it is crazy because there are not people taking care of us. So, as everybody knows, I'm an advocate for anything having to do with taking care of people with Lyme. So, um, today I'd like to go ahead and kind of just promote something that's important to me. We have my good friend Rosie Fusco, who runs several really great Lyme support groups. My favorite one that she does is the Little Lyme Laughter, and that's a great site for people with Lyme. I think because Rosie does a great job in cheering people up, and having a bad day. Us Lymies, we do have bad days. Sometimes bad weeks, sometimes bad months. I've had bad years, so I'm always appreciative of a good day. But when I'm having a bad day, I check out Rosie's page. The reason Rosie, I think, is so wonderful, and hi, Rosie, by the way, you didn't know I was going to talk about you in my video tonight. I didn't know either. I was kind of winging it, like I usually do. Anyway, guys, Rosie's fantastic, again, but she's also gone ahead and started a non-for-profit fundraiser called Hands Up for Lyme. It is $1 a month, so we asked $12 a year to donate for Hands Up for Lyme. I used my good old SSD check, the little itty bitty bit that I get from them. Thank you, though, for that, government, to go ahead and donate for this year. So I donated my $12. The purpose of this fund is for Lyme patients to help other Lyme patients. If you're listening to this video, either you or somebody you love may have Lyme or may think that they have Lyme. You'll find out really fast how quick Lyme could drain your wallet and drain your bank account. If I collectively sat there and figured out how much money I've spent on Lyme treatment / supplements over the past 5 years, or what it would have cost me had I not had really amazing friends in the medical field who took care of me for free and made me not die for years. I still have people that are helping me out where I don't pay for things. But the average cost for my therapy, I've talked about this on other videos, is about anywhere between $1,500 to $3,000 a month. I'm not going to disclose what my income is on SSD, but I can tell you I get the maximum benefit amount for somebody on Social Security Disability in New York State. So when you're looking at that, you'd think that I have a decent income. Not so much, especially when you were making six figures as a healthcare provider prior. So, and as an author that has won awards and is decorated. So I've worked very hard in my career, and it's frustrating to know at the end of the day, hey, guess what? Our treatments aren't covered. So, again, I'm very blessed and thankful. I've had a lot of people help me out, and a lot of people offer to do things for me. And I still continue to help others. So definitely check out Hands Up for Lyme. You can check out the Facebook page for that. There's a lot of great information that Rosie has on there, and she just talks about this. There are people with Lyme disease living in their cars. There are people with Lyme disease homeless, and just, this is horrible. In this day and age, I like to call Lyme the AIDS of the 2000s. People are not paying attention to Lyme disease very much in the same way that people are not paying attention to AIDS. I think that's interesting because I think AIDS originally was called GRID, was discovered in 1982. That's actually the same year Lyme disease was discovered, was 1982. It was the year I was born. So I guess God had plans for me being born in that year. I was supposed to help people out with, I don't work with HIV patients, but I certainly work with, I work with anybody, but if they need to get healthy. But, obviously I have my specialties. And of course, having gone through this, Lyme is one of them. So, yeah. So complications with Lyme, kind of some of the stuff I talked about. People can go blind from Lyme disease. Heard that before. The optic nerve gets all messed up from having brain damage, and it just winds up being severed. If you see me, I swallow all the time in my videos. I don't notice it, but other people will ask, "Are you chewing gum?" No, dude, I can't swallow, and that's why I keep doing that. So I'm not trying to be rude or anything like that. Somebody actually once said that to me at a wedding. Were you up there chewing gum? No, I can't swallow. That's been like that for me for a long time. With my Lyme, you'll see, like, every time I go to swallow, it takes me a second to get whatever I have to get down. Whatever, it's all good. These are just the things that Lymies deal with. I've also seen, obviously, migratory joint problems, joint pain, knee pain, stuff like that. I was out running today and my knee just started killing me. And I have to say, I've been very fortunate with not having issues with my knees or my joints or things like that. For some strange reason, thank you, Jesus, like Lyme has not like attacked any of that stuff on my body. And I'm very thankful for that. I don't know if it's because I was an athlete before and I just lucked out, but I know other people that are athletes that have Lyme too and have migratory joint problems and things like that. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything. The question is, do you just have, if you have rheumatoid arthritis or migratory joint pain, where did it come from? So if you haven't had a Lyme panel done yet, I wouldn't, honestly, I hate to say this, and I am not a medical doctor, so I can't tell you what to do. However, I am a nutritionist, so I can say based on my own experience, this is on my own experience, not me wearing my practitioner hat. Excuse me, guys. I would definitely run an IGenics test. I wouldn't even, unless you have a tick on you and you need to have it removed, which we'll go over in another video, I would definitely do an IGenics test to be sure. This way you know, and then you know which co-infections you have. The other option too, I talk about tickcheck.com. So that's tickcheck.com. Tickcheck.com is a great website. If you do get bit by a tick, you can save the stupid little bugger and stick them in a plastic bag or do something so it can't get out of there. Obviously, we don't want it to reinfect somebody, but usually ticks die when they're done feeding, depending on the species. I've seen weird things with different species of ticks. Whatever the case is, you can save that tick, have that sent into the lab, and then you can have it tested to see what bacterium that or parasites or whatever the hell that tick is carrying. So then you can have a better heads up as to, okay, maybe this tick had Bartonella. Maybe this tick is a Babesia tick. Maybe this tick has just Burgdorferi. And that's all we're seeing there. So, I mean, there could be a number, host of things. And again, it all depends on your immunity, epigenetics, your environment. All of those factors are going to play a role when it comes to whether or not you can track Lyme or not. So, those are just a few of the complications I've heard of. I've absolutely seen people like myself who are in walkers and wheelchairs that can get up one day, all of a sudden, boom, you just lose the ability to walk. I've had it happen to me a million times. Crazy town. Go from running a 5K and like 3 days later, it's like, wow, I'm crawling across my floor. How the hell is this happening? So that can happen to people. I've seen that before as well. There's just so many different health conditions that could be attributed to Lyme. Anxiety is a big one that people don't think about. Depression is another one. And that goes hand in hand. Did the chicken come before the egg is a good question in this situation. Are you depressed because you have Lyme and nobody understands what the hell you're talking about? Like I've been through? Or was that already an issue prior to, and then it maybe became worse as a result of having it? What other problems? I've seen people with oral hygiene issues, thrush issues, issues with candida, issues with periodontitis, I think it is. It's when your gums become like really inflamed and they wind up with bacteria on them. It's Lyme disease. It goes all throughout your body. This bacteria runs rampant throughout the body. So don't think just because your joints are hurting you, it's not in your mouth. It's still floating around all over. So you have to be careful with that. Urinary tract infections. I've seen chronic in a lot of patients or other Lyme people. Peripheral neuropathy is a big one. I have no feeling in my hands or my feet, bilateral. And I've just gotten used to it over a period of time, to be honest with you. I can bang my hand into a wall. Sometimes I cannot feel it at all. I don't recommend the drug Neurontin, and I cannot recommend drugs because I'm not a physician. As a nutritionist, though, who's just done research on it, not really happy with the side effects on that stuff. Fortunately, I have not really dealt with horrible issues with it. It's one of the few medications that I am on, and I do have to take it because I want it, like I said, I just can't feel my hands or my feet. And I fall a lot, and that's not really that much fun. So, gait abnormalities are another big issue that I see. Toe walking was another one. Why would somebody start toe walking after they have Lyme? Well, it has to do with functional neurology, and functional neuro would dictate that toe walking is a primitive reflex, right? We see small children walk on their toes when they first start to walk, and then as time goes on, you develop a normal heel strike. If you don't develop that, Or if all of a sudden you've had this heel strike that was normal, see me as a runner, my heel strike had been normal, then all of a sudden I started toe running. One of my colleagues had noticed that way back when in 2013, when around the time running became a big part of my life. So, yeah, it took me like forever to get my heel strike back to normal again. Thank God I have a lot of friends at my practice that are physical therapists, whatever the case is, and personal trainers. My best friend and my brother are both personal trainers, so I really luck out with that. So that's another issue that you can possibly see. Infertility is another big one. Unfortunately, I've dealt with that in my particular case. So, 35 years old, I'm cool on not having any more children. I have a beautiful son and my little angel daughter, but baby factory is closed in this particular town over here. Not happening. And then again, that's in my particular case, that's fine. But if you're looking to conceive, yeah, that kind of sucks. I feel bad for people when they're having to go through that. Although PCOS is a very treatable slash um, I don't want to say the word cure, but it can be managed. You guys kind of can read between the lines of what I'm saying and figure it out a little bit better. And there are certainly some risk factors for that. So, guys, brain damage. I've seen all different types of things with that. I myself have frontal lobe and damage to the left superior temporal gyrus or gyrus. I always forget how to say that particular part of the brain. Damage to the fornix of the brain I've seen, which I call the dream box. So if you see people have trouble with that. Insomnia is a huge issue with Lyme patients. Huge. Just about half the Lyme patients I talk to, we're all up in the middle of the night on Facebook, like back and forth, or I'm emailing people while the rest of the world is sleeping. I always joke around. I'm in New York. I'm very thankful I have friends on the West Coast. I spend a lot of time talking to my West Coast friends when everybody else is passed out for the night. And the crazy thing is, I don't know, again, other Lyme patients have reported this to me before, and I've seen it on other Lyme support websites. It is ridiculous. I could be exhausted and like staring at my ceiling, like, counting sheep or, thinking of fun things and Mickey Mouse and stuff that makes me happy. And I cannot, like, fall asleep for beans. I do meditation, I'll do yoga, I've done like law of attraction podcast. Like, I'm going to fall asleep now. This is going to happen. Yeah, doesn't really happen. I actually have diagnosed with something called alpha intrusion, so I do not get into REM stages of sleep. There are some theories as to why I have that. Some people have said it's Lyme. Some people had one doctor was like, "Oh, that's from medical marijuana." I'm like, I don't think that's what it's from, since it usually makes me fall asleep. I would presume if you don't have it for a while and you're used to having it, then withdrawal plays a role. Um, but people are actually being off-label prescribed Seroquel now, which is for bipolar and schizophrenia. And that's an interesting concept. You're prescribing that for insomnia. Again, I'm not a physician. I can tell you, though, I've tried every natural thing under the sun that there is. In addition to peptide injections, which weren't fun. I had to like shoot my stomach up with peptide injections. Gross. I'm not into needles. Why I became a nutritionist and not a nurse or a doctor. And, well, obviously because I love nutrition as well. Whatever the case is, I've done all of these crazy things. Peptide injections, homeopathic Seroquel, homeopathic Klonopin even, like craziness. Like, talking about taking what is it, schedule, like 3 drug, it's a controlled substance, just to be able to sleep. Epilepsy is another one. I've seen tons of people with Lyme disease that suddenly wind up with epilepsy after that did not have it prior, or an epilepsy-like condition that mimics almost like a grand mal seizure or a petit mal seizure, and it's actually not. People will come back in with EEGs that show up normal, and then they're like referred to a psychiatrist. I've also seen a lot of people with issues with tremors. I have that issue as well. A lot of the time, a tremor or epilepsy will indicate that there's already damage in the brain. Um, we start to see tremors in elderly people because the brain is starting to age and things like that. So that's telling us that there's usually something going on neurologically. So, if you do have tremors, I get them. Fortunately, I don't get them as bad as I used to. But again, that's where being very diligent with my care and my supplements and all of the great stuff that is in my wellness regime right now comes into play. So, as you guys can see, I could go on for hours. Restless leg syndrome is another one. Fibromyalgia is another one that has come up with Lyme. It all depends on what type of Lyme you had, how long it took to incubate, do you have co-infections, how many years did you go untreated with Lyme, were you treated right away, is your immune system faulty, your environmental factors, bioindividuality, your diet. If your diet is crap and you have Lyme, you're not going to get better. A nutritionist is the best person that's qualified to tell you that. Bacteria feeds on sugar, right? Lyme is a bacteria. Fungus also feeds on sugar. Um, you can get different fungal infections. Parasites also love sugar. So think about that for a second. My upcoming book, The Lyme Disease Healing Plan, we're going to be featuring recipes that were tried and true tested to make sure people did not wind up becoming sick from the foods that they were eating with Lyme. And that's another thing. Digestive issues are another huge problem with Lyme patients, particularly when the damage is already spread to the brain. And the reason for that is because a lot of times we see dysautonomic people, ANS, CNS damage, and the body reverts, excuse me, guys, into what we call sympathetic nervous system dominance. And we go into fight or flight mode, and we're not able to break down food. That can also go with heart conditions like tachycardia. I've seen bradycardia go with it as well, or tachybrady syndrome, or a POTS, post-orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, go with that. Um, yeah. So, I mean, honestly, like, I've also seen people with, and we talked about hormonal problems. I've seen a lot of hypothyroidism. Um, women come to me complaining their hair is falling out and things like that. Um, thank you, sarcoidosis. Excuse me, guys. So that's another one. So again, migratory inflammation throughout the body. And if this is not treated, and we'll talk about different treatment options in another video. Again, if you have any chronic health condition, my message to you is go get a Lyme titer test done, especially if you live in the Northeast region of the United States, the Bay Area in San Francisco, California, that area there. There are other parts of California too. Rocky Mountain spotted fever, if anybody's heard of that, is the California version of Lyme disease, so I like to call it, or the West Coast version of it. I see a lot of my West Coast patients coming in with Rocky Mountain spotted fever. It's Lyme disease, man, so it's just a different form of it. So just so you guys are aware, there's an Asian form of Lyme disease now. There's an Asian tick that is now invading New York City. It's a very freaky looking tick. Well, they all look freaky, but this one is particularly. So yeah, you really have to be careful. I spoke to somebody not too long ago that had said, it was a healthcare provider who was very well known. I will not name this person's name, but I was shocked because this person had been living down in Florida. I'm just like, oh, there's not Lyme disease in Florida. Are you sure? Because I've talked to tons of patients with Lyme in Florida. So certainly it is spread throughout the whole country. Again, Mexico, Canada, it's in Europe. So, this stuff is all over the place. We'll talk about where Lyme disease came from on another take, but just to be sure, if you've got any of the conditions I listed as we went through this very long video that you guys were so kind to sit with me on today, you really want to check and see what the hell's going on and really go get that IGeneX test. I think that's, ILADS is saying that's a gold standard right now. I've had an ILADS test done, and that was very helpful in diagnosing what I had going on. And, my tests actually show up positive for Lyme on the standard testing, on ELISA or Western blot. I show up positive for Lyme in addition to 3 bands. My IGeneX testing also mirrored that, showed I was reactive, obviously, to Lyme and still had it. And then in addition to that, I found I had Babesia and Bartonella. So, yay me, I've got other infections going on that are having fun with my cutie pie brain there. So, but again, something to think about if you have any chronic illness. So, that's going to be all for me tonight, ladies and gentlemen. It is like 1 o'clock in the morning in New York, so I spend my time helping people out, even at 1 a.m. So I want to make sure to get that out to you. And it's also a great way to deal with insomnia. Might as well help people if I can't sleep. So, all right, guys. Well, everyone have a great night. I hope everybody is doing very well, and this video was informative to you. If you have any additional questions, please leave them in the comment box below for me, and I'm happy to go ahead and answer them for you. If you need me to help you further than just answering a couple of questions, please feel free to contact me at Christie, Christie, at happyandhealthywellness.com, and I can help you from there. Or you can shoot me a message on my Facebook page. Facebook page is just Christie Korth, Korth. Very easy to find me. You can Google me. I do come up all over the internet. Thank you, Google. I think those are all the ways to get in touch with me. The number to our practice is 631-835-5003. Just for everybody's awareness right now, I am only working with Lyme patients right now on a very limited basis due to the fact that I'm taking care of myself right now. But anybody I do work with, you guys are paying for my Lyme care bill, so I appreciate you very much for that. And I'm thankful that you were here today to listen. I hope this video was helpful to you again, and I hope that night or day that you enjoy the rest of your night or your evening or daytime. Yeah, my brain is half awake now at this point. You guys have a great night. Take care.